Black people are some of the most creative people on earth. And I think that one thing that inspired me as a child was knowing how many Black people invented different things. That's another substitute for that word creative. You know, if you are an inventor, you're a creative.
This is SAGA, a podcast about the people using their powers to shape Thesis. My name is Octavius A. Newman, and we're speaking to Shana Andrews, also known as Zyah Belle, singer, songwriter, and account supervisor here at Thesis. This is Shana's Saga.
I'm excited to talk to you.
You are?
For sure. First of all, kicks.
Yeah.
Off top.
The blues, the blue to greats.
Number one. Are you a sneakerhead?
I'm not a sneakerhead.
Okay.
But I just like what I like. So I try to pick up shoes that I really like rather than being like, I gotta get the latest thing that dropped. It's more so like, oh, I really like that shoe. I'm gonna get that. If I really like it, I will make sure that I get that shoe.
By any means necessary? AK at the window, like
not
type situation?
Super upsell girl, no.
Okay.
I'd have a cap that I'll be like, I'm not spending.
A dollar amount?
Yeah. I won't go above like $250.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So
for some sneakers.
Okay.
Now, if we're talking something else that I'm like, I don't know, like a crazy boot, because I'll go down to materials, like, you know, if it's a really nice leather and da-da-da-da-da, like, you know, something like that. I would spend more on a purse than I would on a pair of shoes.
I believe that. Are you particular?
I would think so, probably, yeah. Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All together, like across the board in all things?
For the most part, yeah. I would like to think so. I think I'm very detail-oriented.
Yes.
So.
From the time I've spent with you,
yeah,
I have picked that up.
Yeah.
Precise.
Yes.
On point.
Yes.
Okay, so as we get into this, I want to know more about who you are now, holistically. Like, how do you describe Shana Andrews?
I would describe me as, on a very basic level, of course, being very artistic. I'm a creative by nature. Even outside of, you know, my music, I would like to think in the way that I've lived my life has been creative. So in the resilience that I've held throughout the years of my life, it was through creativity that I've persevered, of being like, all right, we can't do this, let's pivot. So, you know, I'm definitely a go-getter, somebody who's very inspired and enjoys inspiring other people, because I know how powerful that is and how powerful it feels to receive it. So I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy humor and laughter. I think that's a great way to describe me, is like, as serious and precise and particular as I am, I love to have fun, and I love to be around people also that make me feel most comfortable to be like my goofy self, which is typically my family and very close friends. So yeah. That's Shana.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good summary of
okay,
a
good.
bunch of stuff that we can get into. So, real quick, how does that show up at Thesis? What do you do at Thesis?
What do I do at Thesis? I'm an account supervisor at Thesis, and you know, being seen as a leader in helping supervise a team of people. And the way that I bring that to Thesis, I do treat the people that I supervise like a part of my family, in that sense that, like, I do my best to inspire them and advocate for them as best as I can, and to try to be an example of what it is that I always wanted to experience as a supervisor. I think everybody has had a bad management experience or two, and feeling like they weren't advocated for. And I think through my creative works, in leading there, I've been able to understand how powerful it is to serve the people that you lead. And the perspective of, oh, I'm the leader, I'm above, is completely incorrect. When you're a supervisor, when you're a leader, you're doing anything, it is up to you to serve the people that are on your team. And I really do find honor in that, in being able to serve the people that are on my team. I genuinely enjoy managing the people that I manage. So It's pretty honorable to say that about a place that I work at, because that has not been the narrative my entire life with jobs.
Yeah. It sounds like you found a way to be able to take all that you are.
Yes.
And bring it to your place of work currently, which is Thesis.
Yes.
And fair to say, not dampen your light while you're there.
Definitely. Yeah.
So you talk about being a creative and then also leadership and management. That, at least I can imagine that there are some people watching, listening, that don't see that connection. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever heard anybody say, I'm not a creative? Or,
yes.
Or you're a creative? Or that's because you're a creative.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, for one, to address the first statement of how those two things connect, I've always been an independent creative until most recently of actually having a team of people that help support my creative. And as an independent creative, you are required to lead your vision to fruition.
Right.
So that means sourcing a photographer, the same way that people were sourced to create what we're doing right now is what I've done for my artistry my entire career up until just last September. So I've always had to know how to lead my own creative and utilize people's talents and actually hire people and invoices and all that for myself.
Yeah.
That I had to learn how to manage the career that I wanted to have instead of expecting somebody to do it for me. But in the way that you show up as a creative and a leader, you learn to be innovative. And so when people say things like what you said of like, oh, I'm not a creative, I think that's a complete lie. I think everybody's born creative.
Yeah.
I think that the way we all express our creative is different, and people may think because their creative isn't colorful that it's not creative. Like, oh, if you're not literally painting with color or singing or something that is considered of the arts, it is creative. But I think the correlation of creative with art is diminishing that word. Creative is more than just what is artistic, and also what is artistic is subjective. So we can't say like it just has to be music. You might be an accountant, but the way that you run numbers in your mind and figure things out and strategize and you make it work. Things like improvising, things like when we say, making something out of nothing, that's creative.
Yeah.
And so when people say that, I think they just probably haven't been affirmed in whatever area they are creative, and they might be diminishing what it is that they possess, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said something out of nothing, I felt that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
Because Black people are super creative at lemons into lemonade, chitlins, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just taking a scenario that's not ideal or not what you want or isn't going the way you want to. You have to get creative.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to find a way to figure out how to, manifest your desired outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black people are some of the most creative people on earth. And I think that one thing that inspired me as a child was knowing how many Black people invented different things. That's another substitute for that word creative. If you are an inventor, you're a creative. To take something and go, oh, I'm gonna put this together and weld this or glue this or whatever. You had an idea.
Yeah.
You're a creative.
Yeah.
If you're religious, then you know that this world was created from an idea. From an idea that translated into words
in the beginning,
and it spoke out in the beginning.
Right.
So to me, that says everybody's creative, and so that's something out of nothing. I think all of us have experienced that in our own particular way, some more than others, but we've all had to make something out of nothing at one point in our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you always creative?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I would love to get into like your youth, like young Shana. Because when I see people like in the current form of their saga, of their story, it's interesting to go, okay, that's who you are right now.
Yeah.
But it's also always cool to go back in time to see, oh, this is where you came from, and oh, you can see a little bit of it right there too, or oh, that's where that spark happened.
Yeah.
So where are you from? Where did Shana begin?
I'm from Vallejo, California. So very small city in the Bay Area. Originally where my entire family's from, and yeah.
How far back? When you say entire family, I can imagine like
as far back, I
what?
would say, I want to say it's great. Originally, when my family came from down south, they came to Tulare, California.
Okay.
Which is like a in-between city in California. It's a farmland. And then some moved down further south California into Bakersfield, LA. And then some moved up to the Bay Area because there were a lot of promising jobs in the Bay Area. So that's how my family ended up in Vallejo, because there was a naval base, oil refinery, and then they ended up having car manufacturing. So there were a lot of Black folks that moved to the Bay Area, particularly for the job market.
That's dope that you know that much about your people.
Yeah,
Like,
I ask a lot of questions to my mom and my aunt.
Yeah. That's no small thing, just to be able to track, for Black folks.
Yeah, definitely.
Where are you from? Where are your people from? In a sense, like, why am I like this?
Yeah.
A little bit, nature, nurture, but just knowing like, oh, okay, that's where I'm from. That's where we're from.
Yeah.
What was Vallejo like for someone who doesn't know? What was your experience like?
My experience was I would say it was very like typical, I guess, 90s childhood of like playing outside, double dutch, water fights. Like, I really feel like I got some of the best parts of the 90s into the millennial years, because I got that experience of like, I made mud pies as a kid for fun and put flowers in them and like, oh, like I'm making a pie. But then I also grew up low-key coding and making MySpace pages once I turned 10.
Yeah.
So I got a good balance of both.
Was it top 8? Is that what was the top 8?
Top 8, yep. And it was I feel like I grew up in a creative generation, a creative era. A lot of newness emerged from the 90s into the early 2000s. So my childhood was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was very simple, but very fun.
So you know what it's like to not have the internet.
Yes.
And to have the internet.
Dial up, yes.
Yeah.
When you had to have 2 phone lines if you wanted to be on the internet and have a phone call at the same time.
If you're lucky.
And if you had 2 phone lines, you had money.
Yeah.
Yeah, my auntie had money. She was the only one in the family that had 2 phone lines.
Did you get the AOL disc joints?
Yes.
Man, there was a time where internet cost money. You couldn't just...
really cost money.
Yeah.
It was a true privilege versus like now everybody has Wi-Fi. Everywhere has Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up with the on the phone. They on the, my mom, get off the computer. You was on the computer all day and I was trying to call the house. Yeah, that's how I grew up.
Yes.
That's how I grew up. Yep.
That's hilarious. Any people in particular played a part? You mentioned your aunt, you mentioned mom. Who's around at that time in your life?
Oh, the whole family. I mean, my family is mainly ran by multiple matriarchs. A lot of women are present in our family in such a beautiful way, but also in a traumatic way, because a lot of men, aren't in our family, have had either, fell victim to drugs or fell victim to just being incarcerated. And so I grew up around very strong women, my mother, my aunt, my mom's best friends. I have 2 older sisters. I have an older brother. So I grew up around like cousins, all the cousins hanging out. That's what my early childhood consisted of, playing outside to the street lights.
Did you have the streetlight rule?
Yeah, we had the streetlight rule. Come in the house when the street lights is on. And so it was.
See, they don't know about that.
Yeah.
They might,
kids ain't really playing outside. I mean, it's like,
isn't that wild?
Get off your tablet when the street lights is on. I don't know.
Right.
So I definitely had that life of like, your mom and your auntie telling you to go outside because they probably in the house cooking or doing, or they just don't want to be bothered with you. Y'all go outside and play, tire yourself out. And then, yeah, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was everybody. Very lively, loud, a lot of things happen, a lot of things going on in my younger childhood because it was just so many cousins and kids.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. It's a beautiful noise.
It's a beautiful noise.
It is.
I heard it more when you said it. Like I feel like I can hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a
like
lot.
You calling it a beautiful noise. Yeah. So at this time, are the seeds and the sparks of creativity there? Can you see that at that point?
Yeah, my mom, I get all my gifts from her. And so I grew up watching her be creative. She's a singer. She's a songwriter. I grew up seeing her do sign language, do dance, do hair. And so I grew up around creativity within her and then also within the church. So at least by the time I was, according to her, at least by the time I was 2 or 3, I was singing because of my sisters, them teaching me songs because they thought it was cute. You know, their little sisters singing it in this baby voice. But I started really exploring my creative at least by 5, like in the children's choir and stuff. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you was singing.
I was singing.
That's all right, baby. Bless him.
Yeah, I was singing. I didn't know, I didn't think I could sing though, but I was still singing.
But you can sing now.
I could sing now.
You be out here.
Yeah.
I done heard it.
Yeah.
It's out there to be heard.
Yep, it is.
So is there a specific moment? I think you said it was singing in the church.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first personal moment where you're like, oh, I have access to creativity. I can do this.
Yeah. I think the first time I felt like I could do it as a creative was my sophomore year in high school, and I auditioned for Dorothy and the Wiz. And I had like auditioned for it in secret. I had been practicing the songs in secret. I would sing with my door closed, and anytime my sisters came, I would like stop singing. Or my mom, I'd be like, you know, I didn't want them to hear me, but I ended up getting the part and doing it. We sold out every show, and from there it was just like, oh my gosh, like I could really do this. And it was also really encouraging to get the reactions from people like, oh my God, like that was so good. And being called Dorothy after that, like, hey Dorothy, like, because it was like a thing. And it was really encouraging. I think I really needed that. And from there, I didn't want to stop having that same feeling while singing. And so that I started singing out loud more and deciding that I wanted to pursue it more outside of just singing in the choir, you know, so. Yeah.
You didn't want to have that same feeling while singing. Can you just, what is that feeling? What does that mean?
Yeah, I wanted to keep that same feeling while singing, which was, for me, when I perform, it's probably one of the most intimate experiences that I feel like I get to have in life. It's a moment where something that is coming directly from me and my emotions is connecting with people that I've probably never met before. And it just feels like, in the most corny way, but energy just kind of bouncing back and forth. I sing, I feed off of them, and vice versa. But yeah, I think that with performing, when I feel like when I sang in the Wiz, like I knew I could pursue it, but I knew that I wanted to continue to feel that when I kept singing in front of different people. Like I would always sing at different school rallies or whatever. And it's just such an exceptional moment. Like it is probably one of my favorite things in the world to do.
Singing.
Is singing. Really, particularly performing, not just singing, because I could sing in the studio, and but I love performing. I love being able to sing for an audience and have that experience with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't perform often in front of a bunch of people, but as I'm hearing you describe it, especially if you're good and you know you're good, and everyone else is affirming how good you are in the moment,
yeah,
I'm sure it can feel like you're in the flow.
Yeah. And beyond like it being affirming, the music that I'm singing is mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a release, you know, when I'm doing that. And it's different for people to hear my music, but then when you perform it, I feel like I'm able to truly connect like what those songs mean to me. I don't know, it just feels like expression like in its fullness when I perform.
Now, when you're at this point, I noticed you said when my sisters would come, I want them to know. Was anyone affirming the creativity, you know, from you at that point? Is anyone in particular that played a role in you kind of blooming?
I wouldn't say no person in particular. I think my family and the church really, because I was in the church heavily as a kid and a teen, I think they were as encouraging as they could be. I think that it was up to me though to have enough courage to sing out loud. Because it's hard for people to encourage you to do something that you aren't doing. Like they have to see it, you know, in order to speak to it. So it was up to me to just kind of stop being scared, truly. Yeah.
And at this time, are you thinking about your future, your career? Like where are you at in life when the singing is blooming? Are you in high school, college?
I was in high school. I was in a lot of confusion because I was like, what the hell am I about to do? I guess I'm about to be an adult now. You know, so
That's a
very
moment.
confusing time. I knew I wanted to pursue music, but creatives are typically discouraged because we're always told that the things that we want to do does not make the most money. And so I was very confused and like, well, I guess I'm gonna go to college. Yeah, like that's what I'm supposed to do, you know? I wasn't so sure that I was gonna pursue music, but what I would try to do is figure out a way to be creative and still like speak to my fear. Like I was still very fearful. So I was trying to think like, okay, well maybe I'll be a music teacher.
Oh,
You know? Okay. Or maybe, like I was trying to find what is a way that being a creative could be acceptable, I guess. Because the starving artist, the pursuing actor, the pursuing singer or dancer is like, oh, that's cute. Like people think your talent's cute, but then they're like, oh yeah, but that's like a broke thing. Like good for you. You're so passionate and talented. I know you're broke. It's so honorable.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out a way to be like, how can I not be broke and like actually have a foundation in life and still pursue this? So it was so confusing.
Yeah.
It truly wasn't until I was like 20 that I actually was like, okay, I'm gonna actually do this. It took a while.
Well, first of all, the broke artist thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's movies and TV shows about it. There's jokes about it. Everybody moves to Hollywood to be an actor and they end up being a waiter or whatever the heck it is, right? How did you make a living while you are pursuing your own personal creativity and artistry?
Oh, I had a job like I do now. But what I did,
simple answer.
Yeah, but what I used to do though in the beginning of that was I did any job that I could get like good money for. I tried doing like security. I don't know what the hell I thought I was about to secure. No, I did like I worked for Macy's for like 3 months doing loss prevention, and then they tried to get me to apprehend somebody, and I was like, I quit. This is ridiculous. I am not about to touch somebody.
Wait a minute.
I was just like,
hold on. So
are you serious? No.
Please describe, because I do in fact love a good story.
Oh my God.
Please describe for me the scenario when they tried to get you to apprehend somebody. You was like,
It was
what
horrible.
You mean?
It was horrible. I was working at the Concord Mall, and it was during the holiday, and I worked on just CCTV, so I just watched the cameras. And there was a girl taking the bags and putting them in this huge Disney bag. If you've ever been to the Disney store at any mall, they give huge bags so you can put like the huge teddy bears or stuff in. So she had one of those bags, and she had her son with her, might I add. And on Macy's racks, the way the bags are, they connect all the bags to each other, all the security, so you can't just take one bag.
Right.
So she must have had a wire cutter or something. She cut the end of the first one so it could slide off. Yeah, and she slid it off into this bag, and she's just sliding bags in there. What's killing me is her son's right here. I'm on my walkie like, hey, down by the bags. We got somebody stealing some bags, da-da-da. So they all go down towards her, and they're like, well, we need you down here too, because they end up seeing that she was with a larger group. Well, the way this mall,
It was a ring of people?
They were stealing throughout the mall.
The Joker gang?
I don't know how much they stole, but they were stealing throughout the mall.
Okay.
And so at that point, mall security was involved too. And the way the mall is the Macy's was right here, and there was another store, and then they end up going around. And they went into this other store, and then they asked me to chase her down and apprehend her. And I was just like, first of all, I'm not chasing anybody, because they wanted me to chase her because as soon as she got to the sidewalk outside, you can't touch her anymore. And there was an outside entrance into the next store that she went to. So that's why she wrapped around. So they get her, they bring her into the office, and they're trying to put handcuffs on her. And she was small, but she was strong. Because also I think it's because she was like thinking, you guys have my son sitting over here, because she had her son with her.
Oh, they done apprehended the kid?
They didn't apprehend him, but they like put him in another room,
Okay.
Because they were calling the police. And so they're like, Shana, help us. It's like two people trying to put her in handcuffs. Shana, help us. I said, I think y'all got it. Y'all are fine. That's legit what I said. I think y'all are fine. Y'all got it. Because it's two people. It's two people. And then honestly, to be really real with y'all, on just like some Bay Area knowledge, Concord is like an in-between city. In the Bay Area, there's a lot of in-between cities, right? There's major cities that you know in the Bay. You know Oakland. You know San Francisco, right? You know San Jose. But you, in between that, you have Emeryville, you got Concord, you got Martinez, you got different little places, right? Concord is mainly just a place where people go to shop. And there's not a lot of black people that actually live in Concord. I was the only black security guard at this store. She was also black. What I'm thinking is, she gonna remember my face. I'm not playing with that. I have to think about that. Oh, the girl at the Macy's, I don't know. They're not worried about it. There's different, hey, just a pro tip for people out there that don't know. There's things that black people have to worry about that other people don't have to.
School of hard
knocks. And that is the thing that I said, I don't know if this girl come back up here, doing this in front of her son. Y'all good, y'all got it. Mom, can you come get me? Yeah, I'm off early.
It's my last
I quit,
day.
Not doing it. I think it was like $13 an hour I was making.
I hear that.
And she was stealing some like Betsy Johnson purses, some Dooney and Burke. I'm like, you're not gonna get much for that on the street, girl. You're going to jail for some Dooney and Burke bags. I just, those moments where things happen to you, you just kind of look at your life and you're like, what am I doing?
What is the meaning of this?
Why am I here? I got out of there.
And it was at that moment you're I got to make this music thing work.
I did so many odd jobs, okay? And I mean, eventually I started to get fed up, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, you need to figure out a way to have something that you're passionate about correlate with the job that you're going to do to keep food on your table.
Okay.
And so I only intentionally from then on out, I mean, it took me probably maybe 2 more jobs after that, but still, after a while, it's just like, okay, I have to make sure that whatever job that I go after has a thread of something that I'm passionate about, because I'm also not a good, inauthentic worker. I'm not a cashier girl. I'm not because you can't tell me that a lot of people that work their jobs like their jobs. They're doing it to put food on their table.
Right.
And I'm not a put food on the table girl. I'm not. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit. If I don't like it. But hey, Thesis, I must love it. because I'm still here. But I started doing that, and that helped me show up passionate, because I don't want to lie in the interview. They're like, do you really see yourself having a career here at this retail store for the next 5 years? And I'm like, yeah, I could totally see myself folding shirts for 5 years. Like, that's what they want you to say.
Right.
And I just was like, I can't be inauthentic in these jobs where I'm gonna quit, and I need money. And so from there, I started doing things that spoke to my different passions. I've styled before, which I really enjoyed. I worked as a stylist for some time, doing project management, for different artists and creatives. And I liked it because it was still creative. And I had to understand that through like the one-off jobs that I got. Like, you have to do something creative if it is gonna be a 9 to 5, because that's just who you are. Yeah. And you're gonna have a hard time if you don't. So it took me a minute, but that's what I did to support myself throughout my career. And I used my gifts, even if I wasn't working a job, I did hair. That's a gift that I learned from my mother. And so I would braid hair for money. Lived in LA, would braid hair. That's how I would put food on my table. So, but I enjoyed the art of that. So I've been blessed enough to figure that out. And that way it's been able to make this experience as an artist and the pursuit of the art a lot more ingestible and not the starving artist. I haven't been the starving artist, but I've been the broke artist. Yeah. There's a difference. I wasn't starving. I was eating, even if it was a McDouble, just a McDouble.
They'll hold you over. I'll take care of you for a little bit.
Even if it was just a little, chicken with, piece of chicken. I ate.
Yeah.
So I had what I needed.
Right.
I was never starving. I was never without.
That's what's up. That sounds like blessing through struggle.
Oh yeah, you got to find that. That's the only way that you're gonna maintain any point of sanity on that way up, right? So, always found the silver lining through that whole thing.
Yeah, I think there's even some wisdom that is to be pulled out of what you're saying about, like, you got to eat. Man don't work, don't eat.
Yeah.
Person don't work, they don't eat. Like, you have to find a way to do it, but also knowing yourself, and you go, like when you say, I'm not a cashier girl.
Yeah, I did it for some time, but guess what I did? I quit. Because I said, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like that. I do not do well showing up to work inauthentic. I'm not good at being fake, even for money. I can't.
That's a quote right there.
I can't, because I've even messed around at a job one time and said, like, I don't like this. I can't, And so then, even then the job has to be something where maybe I can speak up about maybe change or something that I want to see or whatever. So I've had to learn through those experiences what I could do for money, so that way I could pursue my career and not be starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are people who are, I'm trying to figure out how to answer my question. Like, I understand what you're saying, and there's wisdom in what you're saying, of like, you have to find a way to make a living while you continue to pursue.
Yeah.
Is that something obvious? That's obviously something you had to learn, but like, have you seen people who haven't learned that? Is that like a pivotal thing that you must know in order to pursue?
I think it's nice to know. I don't think everybody knows it or is taught it or is encouraged that you could do that. I think a lot of people don't know that you can do that. I think creatives in general a lot of times don't know what accessibility they have to work. And that there's actual things that you can do as a creative, as a photographer, as a singer, and really actually make a living. And I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but I think if you're not gonna do it that route, then you're probably just, nose in the game, understanding the sacrifice behind having to work a crappy job while you pursue this thing. Some people, that inspires them. Like working, we've all seen the 8 Mile. Like, that's like, he did not like this warehouse job at all, but it kind of pushed him in his creative. So for some people, that dynamic works. So So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it is nice to know, as a possible route.
So you're in Portland now.
Yeah.
How do you, in singing, in finding the jobs that work for you while still pursuing your career in artistry, how do you end up in Portland?
I end up in Portland because, you know, I had an experience in LA that I guess it was kind of like the needle that, you know, broke the camel's back or broke, you know, and I just was kind of, or the straw that broke the camel's back. I just was very unfulfilled on a spiritual level in LA when I was there. It makes sense when I go back home. I went back home recently and it really connected things for me. I grew up around a lot of trees, a lot of art, a lot of accessibility to art, to water, to nature. Even though the Bay Area is definitely a metropolitan and a city, but you can look out and see that beautiful coast. And I grew up around just that freshness. And then when I got to LA, if the air is different, right? Oh, it's way different. And I felt like, okay, I could work here. Like, I know I'm here to work. When people ask me how I felt living there, I would say it's serving its purpose because I moved here to work. I didn't move here to live. I moved to Portland to live. Like, I want to live here. In LA, I wanted to work there. And Portland, I can breathe here. For one, as corny as it is, as a singer, the air that I breathe has a huge importance to me. Even though the pollen count out here is really doing a number on me. But the air is beautiful. And I felt more at home when I came here, when I visited. And I think really the antsiness of being in quarantine and constantly seeing an environment that discouraged me in LA made me need a change of scenery that made me feel more like home. I knew I didn't want to move back to the Bay Area, but I knew after being in Portland and performing here prior to the pandemic that I really enjoyed this place and I had kept visiting. And I'm like, I want to be here. And I've also just never been afraid to just go somewhere and like, let's see. But when people ask me how I like living here, I tell them that like I live here. I think a lot of times when people ask people, how do you like living somewhere, they talk about the things of the city and that's it, right? Like, oh yeah, there's a lot of things to do, or there's like, I actually enjoy the city, just looking at it. Just, I mean, it's the simple, I really live a very simple life in Portland. What I do when I get on a plane and leave is extra, but
it is extra, okay.
It is, but when I'm here, I enjoy the simplicity of it and I enjoy the people that I'm around. It just feels very comforting.
Sounds like a oasis for you.
Yeah, it feels like somewhere that makes me feel encouraged to feel grounded. It's hard to feel grounded in California. It's a hustle state. It is a hustle state. And the environment, I started to feel discouraged that I couldn't live somewhere that I liked and even live and make a living. And when I was in LA, it was like, okay, this is cute aesthetically, but it don't feel like home. It don't feel like, oh, I can't wait to get home. LA just always felt very hustle and bustle. And so I enjoy the energy of Portland, and I never try to make Portland anything other than what it is. Yeah.
What is Portland? That's an interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Portland is very particular, very unique. You know, like there's a sign, keep Portland weird, you know? Like what is the uniqueness of Portland for you? Like you say, you don't try to make it something it's not. What is it for you?
I mean, just that. I mean, I guess the weirdness, to me, it's not even super weird, I guess, because sometimes parts of Portland makes me think about my years in Sacramento too, like the accessibility to nature, arts, creatives, I guess like having a city that is full of budding creatives as well. It has a small town feel, which I'm used to because I grew up in a small town. And so I like that uniqueness. It feels like a city, but it feels close enough to where you can feel like the people that live next to you are neighborly. When you're in a more like city, you probably won't even talk to your neighbors. They probably don't even know your name.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy that. Like I enjoy that people can be down the street, or I could walk down the street and go get some food, and you know, having a more neighborhood type of feel. I enjoy that. I don't know. I think some people probably don't like the small townness of it, or there's certain highlights that I think people always pick out when they bring up Portland to me, but I feel like I curate my own experience, so I enjoy myself.
Yeah. So moving to Portland, I'm curious about like your community, the people you spend time with, because it like sounds like family's important to you.
Yeah.
Did family move to Portland with you? So how has it been finding people who make you feel familial here?
Well, I think one thing to understand about me, I've lived away from my family for quite some time. So I lived in Sacramento on my own, then lived in Los Angeles on my own. So I've learned the value of finding community in my friendships. I was blessed enough to have made connections with people before I moved here. You know, even the reasoning of me having my referral to Thesis was through Jalen, who is somebody that I hang out with outside of Thesis. So a lot of my days, you know, when I'm doing anything outside of enjoying my home, I'm probably hanging out with friends that my friends, if that closeness doesn't feel somewhat like family, then you're probably not my friend for real. So I've been able to find that community there. I've been blessed enough that the people that I've been surrounding myself with have been making me feel very welcomed and comfortable. It's a lot of people that I know, even though I haven't really hung out with them a lot yet, if I hit them up, they would for sure be down. Like a lot of the energy, I think overall has made me feel welcomed, that I didn't have to do too much of like, okay, I gotta find these people before I feel comfortable here. I think, I don't know, I just got really blessed that I feel like a lot of people have given me that great energy. Even before I moved here, I performed here, so I knew a couple artists that really gave me an introduction to the city, and that was really nice. Mike Capes, who's an artist here, was probably the first person that I met from Portland. And I've known him now almost as long as I've been pursuing music, so almost like 8 years. Has to be like 8 or 7 years.
How long have you been in Portland?
I've only been in Portland like a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've had a relationship with him for a couple years. So it's interesting, the connection of Portland. And then I have a cousin that is in Portland, but all of my family lives in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about your connection to Thesis. I'm curious, with all of that stuff and coming to Portland and all that kind of stuff, how do you find yourself in Thesis?
How do I find myself in Thesis?
Well, how do you end up in Thesis?
Quite literally just from a job posting. Literally me applying for jobs and saying like, I want to work at an agency. I have been freelance for a long time, and working in LA, a lot of times people are freelance. And so that was just kind of my regular. And so I wanted agency experience outside of working in an agency type environment, like that corporate experience I hadn't had yet. And I really wanted that. And I felt like I had a lot of like cool things under my belt, but I applied, and actually my first week in Portland, I ended up getting an interview. And then I ended up seeing that Jalen worked here, and I was like, oh wait, Jalen, you work here? I didn't even know. I was just on LinkedIn like looking. I'm like, who all works here?
Who all gonna be there?
And also I didn't know if I knew somebody that worked for the company. Also, the Black community in Portland is fairly small, so I was very curious to see how many Black people worked for Thesis. So I was kind of looking like, okay, and then I saw Jalen, I'm like, wait, what? And then I saw Dre, who I also had met through Mike Capes, and I'm like, hey y'all, like this is what I'm trying to do. And I really do thank God for them, because they were very encouraging to me. There's a certain level of imposter syndrome that a lot of times people experience, especially Black people, especially Black women experience coming into corporate environments. And they really encouraged me that my experience over the years could hold standard to work here. And it was a beautiful experience just to even interview. And I interviewed with Stephanie and Molly, and it was just so much great energy. And that I interviewed with Thesis on my floor, no couch, no nothing. It was my first week. My couch hadn't even got delivered yet. I was on the floor of my apartment and did the interview. Yep.
Wow.
And ended up being employed within my first couple weeks here. And I didn't know if I moved here without a job. I just knew I wanted to be here. So I moved. And I had applied to Thesis prior to even being in Portland. And it just so happened that I got that interview that first week.
Look at that. Look at how it all comes together.
It always does.
It
always does.
Is there anything in particular that you're working towards with your position at Thesis right now? Is there anything in specific that stands out that you're doing?
I think one thing that has been standing out for me has been I've been encouraged to help initiate newness, whether it be newness in position or newness in affirming what certain roles and responsibilities are. That's been enjoyable here because Thesis is a growing company, and the fact that the company has had the openness to say, okay, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
I've been able to explore that within my team, which has allowed me to initiate growth. And that's been beautiful because I do understand, as somebody who's had many jobs, that when you don't feel like you're encouraged to grow where you are, it's hard to be happy where you are and stay where you are.
Yeah.
And that's been beautiful to initiate that, and for me to have people on my team and supervising me to say, I want to hear it. And I believe you when you say that this is something that we need.
Yeah.
And I've been enjoying that. I've been enjoying seeing people say, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful to experience.
It's so funny that what do you think can mean so much, but what do you think with an ellipses at the end, ...
Yeah.
That's different than what do you think? Yeah, I don't agree with that. What I was thinking, like, they don't really want to know. That's just like,
it really is that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? And take your time, and you could send it back and send me your thoughts. Okay, I love these thoughts. Can you send them back this way so I can send your thoughts up here?
Yeah.
That's been beautiful. I've seen it happen in my own position, and I've seen it happen for other people, which has been really encouraging to see. So I feel like that's what I'm most excited about. In some way, it feels like being a part of initiating some sort of change. And I enjoy that.
Is initiating change a big picture thing for you? Is that an important thing for you overall?
Absolutely.
How does that show up outside of what I may know, we may know?
I feel like initiating change feels like it's a part of my mission statement. Like if somebody had a mission statement for me, that initiating change is going to be a part of it, because I like to think of myself as a disruptive person.
Okay.
I feel like in order to initiate change, you have to disrupt the norm. And I think as a Black woman, I initiate change in my presence, just by being there, by being wherever I am. I'm helping initiate change. I think in my ability to speak up, I don't have an issue saying, hey, this is what's going on with me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm seeing. And that's very scary to speak up. But that's a huge part of me, not only for my own benefit, but also for the benefit of other women, other Black women, other creatives, because I know there's so many people with so much to say, but they might not have as much courage to speak up, and they're waiting for somebody to say that. And yes, okay.
Right.
She's saying it.
Right.
Because we can tell people to be confident and courageous all we want, but that's really scary. It's very scary to be courageous, and a lot of us are very traumatized from the repercussions of speaking up in our past. But I've been blessed enough to be in a space that I don't care about the repercussions for speaking my truth, or speaking anything that's gonna help bring a positive change. So that's just, I wear that as like a badge that I'm gonna do that regardless, whether it be in the workplace or for women or for Black women or for a child or for a stranger. I'm gonna speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in everything that you've told me, I feel like I have a really great picture of Shana, current, the past, the come up. What I'm most curious about now is what your eyes see in the future. You know, what are you looking towards? What are you moving for? Where do you see yourself going from here on?
What's interesting is as I get older, I don't even look towards the future as much. I'm really enjoying where I'm at. I think I spent so much of the pursuit looking towards the future. You almost look towards the future to encourage yourself to keep going, right? It's like when you're on that treadmill, sometimes you might dead set at a spot or something while you're working out, right? That zone out in order to keep going and work through that pain or whatever. So that's what the future was for me during those struggles, was zoning out on the future and I can make it there, right? And now I'm pretty much here now. I've arrived at a lot of things that I've wanted to obtain from childhood on out. I always love the tweets of that I see of people saying like, oh, childhood me would think adult me was so cool. And that's why I just really try to be here and enjoy here. The future will take care of itself. I know by trusting myself and through my own patterns that like, girl, you seem to figure it out every time, right? So I think if, history repeats, we'll just get better and better and we'll figure it out and we'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right, let's just enjoy today. Because it's exhausting trying to do both. Trying to be like, So I really just try to be authentic about how I feel in the moment and enjoy that. And I know my future's bright. I know that it's in Portland. I can say that much. People have asked me like, do you plan on moving? I'm like, no. But I can definitely say that I've just been enjoying today.
Yeah.
I try to just do that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a saying or like a thing I say to myself is like, I try to live right now in a way that my future me would be appreciative of.
That's a beautiful thing. I think that's a great way to put it because then whatever you're doing right now, right, it just ends up compounding and affecting the future, So I also think being present in the moment helps me make better choices.
Yeah.
And not working out of anticipation. So, and if life has taught me anything, it's, you can plan, but something's gonna it's always gonna happen the way that it's just intended to happen.
Yeah.
But you could have your way that you would like things to go,
But it's gonna be what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been great.
It has been.
I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing your whole story because my hope is that even as I'm sitting here, I'm inspired and I'm reflecting on myself going like, oh man, I gotta think about that. I gotta consider that. I hope the people listening, watching are able to reflect and take some of this stuff in the same way I have.
Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. I appreciate you for having me. So
absolutely.
I hope that people do take that in. I'm excited to see how they do.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We shall. All right, so thank you. Thank you guys for watching, listening. We'll see you guys next time.